Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Attorney General, President Trump has called the press the enemy of the people, although I think the founders probably thought that a free press was the people's best friend. As Attorney General, will you commit not to prosecute investigative journalists for maintaining the confidentiality of their professional sources?
I will commit to respecting the role of the press and conducting my office in a way that respects that and the rules within the Department of Justice.
But nothing specific.
We have not had a conflict in my term in office yet with the press, but there's some things that press seems to think they have an absolute right to. They do not have an absolute right.
Thank you much. Does your May 10th, 2017 memorandum instructing federal prosecutors to seek the most serious possible charges for criminal defendants and the longest possible sentences extend to defendants who are charged by special counsel Mueller, like Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, George Papadopoulos, and so on?
I would think so. I haven't given that much thought. I would say it does not call for the most maximum sentence. It simply calls for charging the crime, the most serious crime, and
with the highest sentence,
minimum sentence for that most serious crime.
Gotcha. I was confused about one thing that came up in the various questioning about the meetings with Mr. Papadopoulos. At one point, I heard you to say that you told him essentially, no, don't go. You tried to shut it down, the trip. At another point, I thought I heard you to say, don't represent yourself as speaking for the campaign. And I'm just wondering whether you could clarify that. Were you telling him not to go or just not to go and officially speak for the Trump campaign?
I have no specific. I remember the pushback. I remember that he suggested an ability to negotiate with Russians or others, and I thought he had no ability, or it would not be appropriate for him to do so. And I was pretty clear about that he shouldn't be pretending to represent.
And were you equally clear with Mr. Gates at the June meeting? Not to go to Russia and not to represent the campaign? Or Mr. Page, rather.
Mr. Page?
Mr. Page, yeah.
Well, let me tell you what he says. I don't recall it. He says he was in the dinner, and as he walked out, he told me, I'm going to Russia, that I made no response whatsoever. He said it looked like he went one ear and out the other, and that he did nothing improper when he went to Russia. So I don't know what he did and have no knowledge of it. He didn't report to me and didn't act for me. And so far as I know, he didn't act for the campaign.
Fair enough. You've taken the position that members of Congress have no standing to sue in federal court to challenge President Trump's continuing receipt of foreign government payments at the Trump Hotel, the Trump Tower, the Trump golf courses, and so on. As Attorney General, our leading law enforcement official, what is the appropriate constitutional remedy for a president who collects foreign emoluments without obtaining congressional permission to do so? As a matter of law, what is the appropriate remedy?
I would have to take a look at that. I'm not prepared to give you an answer. People have vastly...
Well, you've taken the position that we don't have any standing to raise it in court. So I guess in taking that position that we don't have standing to raise it, what is the appropriate constitutional remedy? This was very serious business for the founders of the country who didn't want the president compromised by foreign government payoffs and by the intervention of foreign government. So what do we do?
The Emoluments Clause has not been a subject of a great deal of litigation. The Department of Justice has long-standing rules about standing and raised the defense of standing against Congress, against private parties, against groups, and it's pretty well established law. I'd have to get you information.
Would you clarify that for us? Thank you. So as Attorney General, you said you'd be a defender of the voting rights of the people. And America faces a number of voting rights crises today. We've got millions of people who are disenfranchised in Puerto Rico and the other territories. We have 650,000 people right here in Washington, D.C. who have no voting representation in Congress. We've got continuing voter purges and suppression at the state level. And we've got warnings from our intelligence community that there will be further attempts at cyber sabotage of our elections. What do you consider the most serious threat to our voting rights, and what are you doing about it?
Well, we will not accept suppression and illegal activities against voters. So if you have any, I'd appreciate you sending it to me.
We absolutely will.
We will make sure it's investigated by career attorneys in our Civil Rights Division.
And on the cybersecurity side, what are you doing to protect us from another hacking of our election attempt to infiltrate with political sabotage, essentially?
I believe that this is a danger. That I believe investigations have been ongoing and it's being considered. But Congressman, I have to say I'm not up to date on the latest of that, and I would be pleased to try to get you something in writing as to what we need to do, or at least what we are doing and what we may need to do to protect the integrity of our elections.
Thank you. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.